Hi, I'm Rogue from Fitness Gone Rogue, and today's video we're going to discuss knee health. This was a topic that was suggested to us from Crash after our last video, and if you haven't seen our last video, which is posture and roller derby, I would advise that you go watch it, give it a little watch before you watch this one, because it'll hopefully help make this one make a little bit more sense. So I'm going to reference some of the topics that I spoke about in that video. So, knee health, it's a very big topic, and I'm probably going to make a couple of videos on this topic, covering just different aspects of it. In today's video, I'm going to specifically look at a muscle group and how, having tightness in this muscle group, we can find ourselves having knee pain. Now, this muscle group is actually found up here in the pelvis area, and so even though we're looking at knee health, we need to remember that our body is connected, and that sometimes a problem might present itself in one area, but the cause of that problem could be in a different area. So I'm going to follow on from the last video I made, and in this concept that if we sit a lot all day, that we find some problem areas in our body. So in that video we discussed having tightness in our hip flexors and our hamstrings from being in a seated position all day. So our body's getting very adapted to that seated position, that flexion at the hip joint, and how that can in turn cause difficulties with our posture. And those difficulties I mentioned was the anterior tilt of the pelvis, and I also mentioned that our body kind of bypasses some of the actions that occur at the area, the hip, and I've mentioned we came into hyperextension rather than being in extension. And I'm actually going to discuss another function that occurs at the hip joint, and that is abduction. Okay, so we have found that we have tightness in our hip flexors and our hamstrings from prolonged sitting. In turn, that's going to have knock-on effects to other muscle groups and other areas around this joint. So the knock-on effect we're going to look at today is abduction, and the cause of that is a tightness being held in the gluteus medius, which is a muscle that's found, and it kind of wraps around from the side of the pelvis around to the back. This is our gluteus medius. Our glutes are a group of muscles that make up our butt. Okay? Our muscles work in conjunction to cause actions at joints. So a good example of this, a nice easy way to describe it or explain it to you, is flexion at the elbow. If I flex my elbow, you can see that my bicep is the one shortening and contracting and causing that action. But in order for that to happen, the tricep needs to relax and become inactive. If we take a look at that same action at the hip, that we're seated all day, we are in a flex position. There is a contraction of the hip flexure, and at the same time an inactive glute in order for this to occur. So in turn, as I said in the last video, the hip flexors become very good at being shortened and in that shortened state. In the same vein, the glutes become very good at being inactive, specifically the gluteus maximus. I also mentioned quickly earlier that we come into our secondary and third function, and we're going to look at abduction. So the reason for that is we can't facilitate this movement that we want to be in. We need to be in extension now, but we can't facilitate it due to this tightening of these muscle groups, and so we kind of create different things. Our body is very good at adapting, and so it adapts, and the way it does that is by pulling our femur into a kind of external rotation, which is actually the same movement as abduction. So we end up with this external rotation happening here in this big thigh muscle, thigh bone, and the muscle group that causes that to occur is our gluteus medius, this muscle down the side here. So that external rotation is a factor of this dysfunction that we're carrying in the pelvis due to being seated all day. And there's a very easy way for you to see if this is a problem that you might find you have, and all you have to do is just jump up out of your chair, out of your seat, and take a look when you naturally stand at your foot placement. What you might find is that your toes turn out and you end up with kind of a duck foot position, and that's one indicator that you might be carrying this tension here in the gluteus medius. So as I did in the last video, I'm going to relate this back to roller derby as well. And as I said in the last one, we kind of end up exaggerating these problems because we use these muscles in a very similar manner. And we actually use this external rotation, this abduction, and the gluteus medius quite a lot in our game. Anytime we want to move laterally across the track, we always turn our foot out and move across in that manner. And as we're doing that, that's activating that gluteus medius in the same manner as it is doing to correct our posture. So again, we're aggravating this area, we're extenuating those common problem areas and just really making sure they're good and tight. Not all is lost though, because we have a nice easy solution. I'm going to show you a couple of exercises at the end of this video of how we can release this tension here. So, what does this mean for our knees? Why am I bringing this up in a knee health video? I would like us to look at the knee, and I want you to think about these two bones, this bone here and this bone down here, being like a train track. So we want this train track to be nice and straight in order for our train to sit on the track and run the whole length or whatever. Our train is our patella, which is our kneecap. And if our train track is nice and straight, our kneecap can slide over the track. So as we bend and flex our knee, the kneecap can just slide, patella can just slide over its track, and it's nice and comfortable doing that. And there is certain areas for our body as naturally created, so we've got a nice layer of cartilage for it to slide over to make sure that it sits on the track nicely. If we have this external rotation of this femur, this abduction occurring due to our dysfunction up here, what do you think that means for our train track? The top part of our train track has now got a twist in it. If we have a twist in our track, our train is not going to be comfortable sitting on the track. And so what happens in turn is our patella slides off the track, and instead of coasting over the nice cartilage area, it's going to be hitting off the edge of the bone, and it's not going to be a nice smooth movement anymore. What that means is that it can cause inflammation of the patella tendon. You can get some wear and tear there that we really just don't want. So this is what I mean by our body is connected, and an issue that might present itself in the knee by knee pain or discomfort when being in a flex position actually is being caused by a problem up here in the pelvis, and it's being caused by the tension that we're holding in our gluteus medius because we have spent a lot of time in our day being in a seated position. So hopefully that's given you kind of a good understanding of how other areas can kind of connect and cause dysfunctions. Now I'm going to show you a couple of exercises you can do to really release the tension in that gluteus medius. And if you do find that you are externally rotating up here in the pelvis, you've got that duck foot, then this is a really good idea to attack this gluteus medius and really try and release that tension so you can get back into your good posture and your feet back into alignment. Okay, so I'm going to show you two exercises that we can do to release the tension in our gluteus medius. The first exercise is going to be a stretch, and the second exercise is going to be a myofascial release technique that we can do, and we're going to use a foam roller. So the first one is a glute stretch, which you may have done before, but I really want us to focus on really getting into that medius rather than just the gluteus maximus. So this is our lying down glute stretch. We're going to place the heel of one foot, or the ankle of one ankle, on the opposite knee, and we're really going to try and open the hips and turn out the knee of this leg, and then we're going to thread our hands through and just pull that leg towards us. So in order for us to really focus on the gluteus medius, we need to make sure that this knee is being pushed out so that we can really get into the hip here. We also want to bring this leg to the point where we really feel that stretch hitting in the tight area. So you can move this straight leg up and down until you find that spot that's really tight for you, and then you can hold it there. Now you're going to hold this stretch for 1 to 2 minutes, and you really want to focus on trying to be as relaxed as you can, really sitting deep into the stretch, and really focus on turning out this knee here to really get into that gluteus medius. Okay, you'll then repeat that exercise on the other leg, making sure that you level up each side. And then the second exercise, we're going to be using the myofascial release technique. Now, the myofascial release technique gets a little bit deeper into the tissue, so this is actually my favoured choice of these two exercises. The way I like to think about it is, if you have cracks in your house, and the root of the cause of the problem is in the foundations, then you could plaster over the cracks as much as you like. However, that problem in the foundations is still going to be there. And that's the way I like to think about my muscle. If I'm doing a stretch, it's going to work to a certain degree. It's going to help me relax that muscle and kind of lengthen it. But in order for me to get deep into the tissue, then I'm going to go for a myofascial release technique. So we're going to use a foam roller. Mine is particularly mean, as you can see, nice spiky bits on there. You don't have to go for this intensity. You can start with a softer foam roller with a smoother exterior. Now what we're looking to do in this exercise is really try and get into this lateral portion here, starting on the side of the pelvis, working around to the back, and we're going to actually think about moving around that muscle, across the fibers of that muscle. So we're going to come down onto our side, onto this foam roller. We're going to make sure that we get a nice alignment here with this leg that we're working on, and you want to keep the knee flexed, so you want to keep the knee bent, just to offer a bit more support. We're going to lie down onto, you'll feel it hit that gluteus medius, and you should feel it tense up, and I want you to really focus on relaxing that muscle. So you can straighten the other leg over the top, get yourself into a comfortable position, and as soon as you are supporting your weight on this elbow, you can really feel that muscle just relax and let go. You're going to hold it there for about 30 seconds, and then what you're going to do is just slowly rotate the hips to just roll along that side, from all the way to the side, and then all the way over to the back portion of that muscle. And you'll probably find there'll be one area that's particularly tight, it's particularly kind of sore. We want it to be a kind of dull ache. We don't want to look for any sharp pains. If there's a sharp pain, then maybe come off, maybe take a break and ease back onto it, perhaps go down to a softer foam roller. And you really just want to kind of rotate through that portion of the muscle, working across the muscle fibers, and you want to take it really slow. And again, you want to work this for 1 to 2 minutes to really get a nice deep stretch in that muscle, or relax in that muscle, release of that tension. Of course, then you're going to repeat this on the other side, making sure you even up both sides. I hope you enjoyed that video. Those are the two exercises for the gluteus medius. If you've got any topic that you would like us to cover, just drop us a comment in the comments below, or drop us a message, hit us up on Facebook, whatever you want to. Make sure that you're following our Instagram account for quick tips and videos, following us on Facebook, and again, you can comment here below on the YouTube video, and we will try and cover whatever it is you want us to cover. We really love to hear from you, so make sure you message us, make sure you follow us, and give us a like and share us with all your friends. Thanks for watching. I'm Rogue, this is Fitness Gone Rogue, and that's how to release your gluteus medius.